Sorry, didn't even see.
Thank you
Is
very
that
much.
good?
Yeah.
Ellie, it feels like it was just yesterday we were here finishing the season. How do you feel going into 2020 this year?
We're excited. So, we finished the season. We had a good second half to the season. Last year, we got the MLS Cup. We were that close. And so, this offseason, we really wanted to bring the core back and have some consistency. And we're excited about 2020. And we've got some unfinished business, and we're looking forward to it.
What specific goals are you looking to go for this year in particular?
Well, we're going to go in and try to, just like every season, you go in trying to win every single game and try to build a roster. And, the coaches are busy building a tactical plan to how we can approach the season. It's going to be difficult. I think that teams really come out hard to try to play their very best games against us. But we'll take it one game at a time. San Jose, of course, is the first game in late February, and so that's the target. And then after that game, we'll go one game at a time. But it's exciting. We didn't win it all last year, but of course, in the back of our minds, that's something that is there. So it'll be an exciting season, and we're ready to go.
We didn't see Michael Bradley out there today, Ali. Can you give us an update?
Yeah, so Michael's going to have surgery tomorrow in New York City. He suffered a very severe and complicated ankle injury against Seattle in MLS Cup. We didn't disclose that publicly because it's, the details of his injury or of injuries of players you don't necessarily disclose publicly. You're really just working with the medical team and working with the player to try to get him to return to play. And in Michael's case, he had an X-ray after the game in Seattle, and then when we got back to Toronto, he got a couple scans. He stayed in Toronto for a tremendous part of the off season, and we really tried to work with him on his rehab as much as possible to try to get him to a point where he's returning to play full strength. Ankles are finicky, ankles sometimes they tend to take long to recover. Ayo had an ankle injury earlier in the year, I think, in the Atlanta game, and so you got to be careful with those types of injuries. And surgery is the last resort, typically, in terms of what you want to do. And in Michael's case, we are going to be careful and cautious about this, but we're confident that once he has the surgery, that he'll be able to return to play. It'll take probably approximately 4 months. Now that could be shorter or it could be lengthier depending upon how we manage that process. Of course, we would love for him to be ready to go today, but that's not going to happen.
So if you're missing Bradley for 3-4 months, how does this change your approach to finding a designated player going into the season, or do is waiting till summer maybe still an option for you in that sense?
I think, today's the first day of preseason. We feel, one of the positives that we have about with the team right now is that we brought a good core group of guys back. There's consistency. There's players that this isn't the first time that the team has been without Michael Bradley, whether you're looking through FIFA windows and national team call-ups and those types of things. We've had players playing over the last couple of weeks with Canada, so those guys should come in fairly fit. We have a mentality where it's next guy up, and so we'll evaluate kind of how the next 4 to 6 weeks go, and take it from there.
Could you say again, Ali, what exactly was the damage that occurred in the ankle?
I don't want to get into the details of, the specific injury that Michael suffered, but it was he suffered it I think in the 30th minute through a challenge with Roman Torres. If you look back at the tape, it was a pretty harsh tackle. So that's what caused everything. And now it's important that we really are smart and aggressive about his rehab. We need to put a plan in place and how we're going to manage that so that we can get him healthy as quick as possible.
Did you actually guys think that there was a chance you could rehab it before surgery became the option to take?
Yeah, like most injuries, surgery is always the last resort. And so, ankles, like I said, those ankles sometimes they sometimes tend to take longer than you'd like. And so, the objective is always to try to, physical therapy and rehab and those types of things in the off season to get guys as healthy as possible, to get them full strength 100%, and then surgery is usually the last resort. An effective, but usually the last resort, and that's the case in Michael's.
Josie really, struggled to get on the field late in the season last year too through injury. Do you expect him to be fully ready to go as the season's going to start here in about 6 to 8 weeks?
Yeah, Josie, as everyone knows, Josie suffered the injury, so he didn't play in those playoff games. But he returned to full strength. He didn't have the fitness, which is why he didn't start in Seattle, but he did play, I think, the last 15, 20 minutes. And so, at the end of the season, Josie was ready to go. He just didn't have the fitness. So we're excited to have Josie this year. Like all of our players, they got to get fit. We got to start building some chemistry, and we'll start to do that this week, and then when the team goes down to Florida.
How are you, Josh, how are you is your search for the DP going?
Obviously you'd like to have any new players that you're bringing into the team, you'd like to have them available for day one. It's not the case. So we feel good about the roster in general in terms of the types of players and all the players that we have. We feel like we're ready to go in terms of just from a quality perspective. So in that sense, it's a positive. Obviously, to get players into the team, to get them training, used to the facilities, used to the style of play, those types of things, it's always best to have those players in, from day one. But we're continuing having discussions with different clubs and different players, and, when there's news, we'll let you know.
Given the nature of the transfer market, is there beneficial in any way to pick up a player, a DP in the summer when you have a better idea of where your needs are as a team, and maybe it's a little easier to acquire a player then?
Yeah, sometimes, the players are available at different times, and sometimes, at least from a European standpoint, this is the middle of their season, and so it makes it a little bit more challenging to get those players out of their contracts from their clubs in this moment, and you saw a little bit of that with Pozuelo. So we're evaluating all different scenarios, different plans, what we have. If we wait until the summer, then, of course, we'll be able to be a little bit more specific in terms of what our needs are. But right now, it's that we're in a situation where we've got a pretty veteran team, and then we're also adding, you'll see, some younger players that we feel have some energy and some life. Gallardo now has had, some months to kind of transition and get within the team, and so we're expecting some big things from him. But we'll see. Ideally, I think it's always best if you can bring a player early so that they have that opportunity without pressure, without competitive games, to kind of get used to the team, used to the environment, used to transitioning. But sometimes you don't have complete control of those things, but we're working every single day to make sure we find the right player that is the right fit.
What did you learn from the experience with Pozuelo that would maybe influence your kind of DP decision this time around?
Well, it's we're looking for, you've always got to evaluate the composition of the team and the group. And, our group last January, February is much different than our group now. In terms of last year, there were a few player departures, and we really were looking for a number 10, a player that could step in, that was veteran. If you look at the composition of our roster and our team right now, we're a very veteran team, and in a lot of respects, you're looking for a designated player that you can kind of build around, and that's one of the reasons why we went out and we got Pozuelo. I think the team is so strong in this moment right now that we have the ability to really be very measured and specific about that particular player. Could it be a more veteran player? Could it be a younger player? But I think we have that latitude to do that because of the quality of the team that we've brought back.
Going back to Michael Ali, was the club aware soon after the Cup final this could be a severe injury? Was that knowledge known earlier, or has it just not responded and then you've had to go the last resort?
We knew that the listen, I think Michael's an important player, captain of this team, and he takes care of his body exceptionally well. He's in a lot of cases, he's the first guy to get here and he's the last guy to leave. And so it's important that we're smart about injuries to all of our players, but of course, particularly to our captain and a guy who's meant so much to the team in years. And so we knew that it was a severe injury when it happened. I mean, even if you look at the tape, it was a bad knock. And he had, we had the x-rays and the scans, and like I said, it's the ankle, so it's one of those things that you really want to heal it as best you can, and it really you really want that ankle to be 100% in full strength, so that we're not worrying about any injuries come the summer and come the playoffs this year. And so it's important that we're cautious about it, and like I said, I wish he was ready to go today. That's not the case, and so we'll be smart about it moving forward.
When you signed him, when you signed him near the press conference in December, he was still rehabbing it, and you guys were still hopeful that you could get him well that way?
Yeah. So, I mean, Michael was, like I said, Michael spent the better part of the off-season here in Toronto. He was here at the facility rehabbing. We were working with him. There are a few other players, of course, but Michael spent a lot of his time trying to get healthy and trying to get back. And like I said, surgery is usually a last resort. And in this sense, we all collectively feel that this is the best decision for him to get full strength. So he'll see the specialist tomorrow, and hopefully he'll be back in Toronto on Wednesday, and then we'll start the recovery process and probably have more information after that happens.
Ali, what do you see in Gallardo, and how big do you think is going to be this preseason for him?
Well, just like every player, I think it'll be up to him to show their quality and to earn a spot in the starting lineup. He was in the 18 for many of our playoff run, but it's important that he establishes himself as every player on our team does, and there's opportunity as well. So we've got, like I said, we've got a veteran team. It's exciting. I think we can be explosive. He has those types of qualities where he's dynamic, he's fast, he takes care of his body. And so I think this is a big year. I think he's had the opportunity now to kind of settle in. He's a young man. He had a baby last year as well, moved to a new country. All those things impact what happens on the field. So hopefully he's able to kind of just settle in. He knows his teammates. He knows what the training ground looks like and how to get there, and hopefully he'll add value in the way in which we believe he can.
You've mentioned this is a veteran team a few times, but where does that leave players like Liam, Io, Jacob? Like, are you looking for them to take an increased role with the team, or where do you see their role this season?
I think with every year you have an opportunity every player has an opportunity to establish themselves. And our veteran players, they had to establish themselves when they were younger players as well. I thought Jacob had a really good, took a great step in that last year. Io had a fast start to the season, then he had an injury, and then it was just it's a very difficult lineup to crack. And we had the acquisition of Mullins, and so Liam, I think, is going to come in ready to compete. From all reports, he had a good camp with Canada the last couple weeks, so there's opportunity. Greg and the staff they're open-minded about players coming in and having energy and creating a new dynamic, and if we have a new starting 11 or a different 18, but there's going to be a lot of games this season, and they'll come fast. If you look at I think it's in March, April, May. I think we placed half of our MLS regular season just within those first 3 months, and there's a lot of Saturday, Wednesday. So there's going to be we have schedule congestion, so there should be a lot of opportunity for all players on the roster to compete and get minutes, and we'll look for that, and that's healthy, that's good. We need that, and every player will have an opportunity to step up and establish themselves.